Pod Candy, a podcast about cults, crimes, and killers. You know we love talking about cults, crimes, and killers, but what if we told you some of that has happened to us?
Hopefully none of us have killed anybody, but yeah, we have been recruited, manipulated, gaslit, and not just by our exes. We've got stories.
And it turns out that studying the dark side gets a lot more interesting when you've lived a bit of it. And you're going to hear about it today.
In this episode, we're talking about our brushes with the bizarre, the controlling, and the just plain shady.
Because sometimes the wildest stories don't come from the headlines. They come from your co-hosts.
Outside my windows, it's only raining. When the wind blows, I feel pain. I don't need no doctor, baby, I'm not sick. My body's been locked up, broken ever since.
So here we are, the three of us together talking about our brushes with killers, crimes, and cults. Does anybody want to start?
Manipulation.
And manipulation.
Got some good stories. I was going to, in the intro, you guys, when you said, I hope nobody's killed anybody, I was going to cough a little bit, but.
Dr. John, do tell.
Well, you know what I'll say, Dori? I've wanted to kill people, but I haven't done it. Because, I have a thing about me that says, don't do that. So, John, what is it about a person where's the line between actually following through with it? Is it mental illness? Is it psychotic behavior between somebody crossing the line to kill somebody?
Well, not necessarily. It really is about boundary setting. That most of us are raised, and I have to say most of us. We constantly in our society are fascinated by the unusual and abnormal. We always have to remember that the vast majority of us are good people, live good lives, contribute to the world, but what you're talking about is crossing a boundary that, some people can and some people can't, and a lot to do with, sometimes it's at that moment, with a lot of the work I do, it's gruesome and with the law enforcement and going into a murder, etc. But the statistics are that most murders are between familiar people. And it's it's a killing that happens spontaneously because of an argument or whatever. And that's the statistics are overwhelming. It's like 80%.
Wow.
I hate injustice, and I'm not gonna lie. Here's the thing. I've never been to the point of where I'm going to kill anybody because I believe that I have some sanity within me. However, I have definitely been really, really angry with people, especially when I have been fucked over.
Can I beg to pop in? Because
sure, you can.
You know what?
So,
Dori,
since you're the doctor.
That really stop. That really is a great segue into my story.
Oh, okay. Let's go into your story.
Then let's hear your story, Dr.
Because
John.
I have been ready to kill somebody because of what happened.
Oh, I'm dying to hear this.
Literally.
No pun intended. No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended.
No, or
let's
pun
go.
intended. Let me tell you the story. You both may know, and maybe the audience doesn't know, I was raised in the inner city of Chicago. My parents were, not wealthy. You could probably call us lower middle class people. So as I progressed in my career, and I got into Northwestern Medical School, et cetera, and things were, starting to happen for me. I became a doctor, finally making actual real money in my life, and had a young family. And then something happened. A friend of the family, who was, is the type of guy you can kind of guess is a shyster. He was kind of a tangential guy in my close family circles. And this guy stole my identity. And this was in the days when stealing your identity wasn't even a thing. He literally took my financial information, and get this. Actually, I'll give you how I found out about it. I was starting to get calls from like the electric company and gas company that I was past due on bills. And I'm going, I always pay my bills almost immediately when I get them. And so I would let them go. I just wouldn't even answer the phone. But I answered the phone on one of them. I forget why. And some of these, by the way, were at like 11 p.m. at night. I'll never forget the first one I answered. I was literally in bed, and they woke me up, and it was an electric company. And I said, what is this about? And they gave me an address of a property. I go, I don't have, I don't own any property at such and such and such. Well, sir, you're the person of record. We're past due like thousands of dollars. And remember, this is decades ago, and money was different. So these calls kept coming. And finally, I hired a private detective. And I said, what's going on here? And the addresses were all different. Again, late at night, I get a call from the private detective about a week later. And he was a little bit too glib at the time, because he kind of chuckled and said, Dr. Mayer, you own 13 buildings and a hotel.
Oh my, wow. That's insane.
It was devastating. And I'm like 27 years old. I've never experienced anything like this in my life. Again, coming from poor stock, I don't know finances and, property and all this kind. I've never been involved in any of this kind of stuff. Turns out that this private investigator found everything out. And this friend took my financials and my identity and bought all these properties in my name. And then he was the quintessential slumlord. He would not pay any bills on him and just collect rents. And he was making all kinds of money off my name, my finances. And I became furious. I was livid. What also, probably both of you don't know, I was a very angry young man when I was growing up because of circumstances, poor kid, why me, etc. But that's a whole other episode. But, I was absolutely livid. I still had a lot of that youthful anger in me. So I found this out. We had 14 separate court cases to resolve. And I am just earning money. I'm just making a living.
Wait a second, John. I have to, there are just so many questions. Do you still own the hotel?
That was my next line, Dori. Thank you. We got out of the 13 properties, which were multi-family home, like 3, 4, 5 family home. But I got stuck with the hotel.
Wait, do you still own the hotel?
No.
Oh, because I was going to say, maybe we can all go there.
And maybe we should go. A party.
Oh, no. You don't want to go
with
there.
Our listeners.
I won't mention where it's at and everything, but it's basically a bum's hotel.
how did he get your information? Like, I don't get
I
like
don't even
how
know.
it initially
I
happened.
don't even know. I don't know if he went into my office and pulled records at some kind of family get together. It never came up in any trials. The trials were all about the money and the business. They weren't about, again, it wasn't a criminal trial. So they didn't care less about how he got the information. He literally had my financial records. But why I wanted to jump on your comment, Dori, is because I was so angry at this guy. I literally had a gun at the door of my house. And if he showed up, I will tell you, I was going to kill him. Thank God he never showed up. But that's how angry I was. And again, before I get to the punchline or the closure, I want to tell you, I learned something exceptionally valuable by this whole incident. One, I was so angry at this guy that it consumed me, just consumed me. On my way to the office, I was totally thinking about it. I won't say I've had a good ability when I deal directly with patients. On that moment, I could forget about it, but it also took me away from paperwork and everything else, being a good doctor. And I don't think I was a good family man or a good husband at the time, because it literally consumed me. And I'm sure many people in the audience can relate to how consumed you are with this anger when something like this happens. And then, true story, I was driving to the office and I had an epiphany, like a lightning bolt hit me, that he's still winning. He's still got my mind under control and captured and still hurting me. At that moment, I literally let it go.
Wow.
And I this is going to sound kind of religious or spiritual, but I said to myself at that time, I said, how can I forgive other people and tell people, to forgive things that happen to them and to heal from it, and I can't do it myself. So it taught me forgiveness. It taught me to move on in my life. But it also taught me, and I tell my patients this, I'll never forget it. And that guy would never be able to do this to me again. Turns out he moves to Arizona, finds an attorney, and does exactly the same thing to this attorney.
He in prison now?
He died a young man earlier in his life. I think he was in his 50s or something like that. So it's sort of like he got his comeuppance, But that's my.
But he never went to jail. He never went to jail.
Well, we could have taken that route, but then what I was advised at that time, and maybe the attorneys in our audience have a different opinion, but my attorney said, listen, we can do one of two things. We can get you out of or try to get you out. Turns out we did. Get you out of these properties and all this bills through civil suits, or we can go the criminal way, and but you're going to have a harder time.
That's like a whole podcast on, and it also reminded me of the story that we told last week, just about somebody completely manipulating somebody, and then it just keeps growing and growing and getting bigger and becomes an animal.
Yeah.
And the person just is brainwashed.
So I'm asking you this because I have a personal story as well that is kind of similar to this. Did you follow him throughout the years? Like, were you kind of, I don't want to say obsessed, but were you obsessed?
That's
with
a really good
finding
question.
out about him as the issues?
Thanks, Dori. That was part of that epiphany I had. I just let it go. I didn't care less. I didn't think about him. I didn't follow him on LinkedIn or try to find out, or Facebook him, see what was going on in his life. I actually heard, again, because he was a family friend. There would be times where I was going to family parties and I had to ask them, is he around? Because I'm not going to show up if he's invited. And interestingly enough, and kind of painfully, the family didn't ostracize him. They all found out what happened. And I was hurt by that. I'll be honest.
So would you ask them over the years why? I know you let it go eventually, but during the height of it.
During the height when I still wasn't letting go, yeah, I had really candid conversations with my relatives and saying, how can you allow him in your house? You know what happened. You know,
Is it just cognitive dissonance? Is it like they can't accept it, or
I
is
think
it
it was,
that they?
I think it was, I come from the stock of people where you don't rock the boat. You
Right,
know,
right.
we don't want
Yeah.
any friction, etc.
Keep it cool, keep it calm, even if it's killing you.
But with the extent of what happened, I couldn't, in my mind, reconcile. I would never, if that happened to a friend of mine or a relative of mine, I would have nothing to do with this fellow.
Me too. Me too.
I would drive up to family get-togethers and I would see his car in the driveway and we would just turn around and go.
Wow. I mean, that is a wow story.
It is. And it took me decades to recover from the financial hole that put me in. I mean, it was just,
it sucks. That sucks.
That was another painful part of it.
Such a violation.
Yeah.
It's such a violating people in all ways. It's just hard to reconcile.
Yeah.
I'm going to just tell you a couple of my stories, and they're not that intense, honestly. But I, at one point, was recruited into a pyramid scheme. Alleged pyramid scheme. Bob Proctor, it was the name of the guru. As we say, there's always a charismatic leader. You said that, John, in another episode. He had this series of DVDs and tapes. Okay, so it tells you how long. It was about 15 years ago. One of my friends talked to me about it. It's all about this manifestation. I'm using air quotes, manifesting your life. Think and Grow Rich by whatever that author, Napoleon, whatever his name is. All the MLMs use this book. It's about manifesting wealth because there's no other way to describe how you can make money in a multi-level marketing company unless you're thinking the right way. And if you don't make money, that means you don't have enough manifestation, enough good thoughts. It's all justified with bullshit. So my friend says to me, you need to get these tapes. They're $1,800 and you listen to each tape. Now there wasn't you couldn't get like an MP3. There's no streaming service to get it. I had to take the DVD and put it in a DVD player and listen to it. It was such a pain in the ass, but that's what it was. I listened to all the tapes. I read the books. And then she came to me and said that there's another level. And I said, I don't feel comfortable. My husband doesn't feel comfortable. And she was like, well, if you don't want to invest in it, and this is the key, then you're not motivated. That means that you don't trust, and you don't trust the process, and you're blocking, and you're not allowing these, and it's just money. And if you're afraid to let go of money, how are you going to make any? You got to let it go to make it. And I went back and, I have a mother we've always liked to talk about cults and stuff like that. And I was always going back and forth of, should I invest in this again? Like $1,800, I don't make that much money, and it just felt so scamish. I stopped talking to her. I didn't buy any more. He's since passed away.
You had said that your mother, you guys would always talk about cults and all that. So when you initially did this, were you talking to your mom about this? Like, this is what I'm doing. Like, what was the influence? When did you bring your family into this?
I don't think I told her because I was starting to be it's like a beginning of brainwashing where I was starting to think, what if she's right? And what if I do manifest money? What if I wrote myself a note, I will make $250,000 in the next year, and I put it in my wallet? I was starting to kind of buy into this shit. And my husband was not into it. He was not into it. I mean, thank God. But it clicked. It came to my senses. I had an epiphany just like John. So I don't think that I told my parents. I think I was just embarrassed because I was doing something I was against.
And I think people have to understand that their techniques are so effective.
Oh yeah.
Some of
You
their
know, they
techniques,
love bomb you. It's love bombing.
yeah, their techniques are, based on some very scientific principles that we humans are certainly susceptible to. Uh, the same techniques are used in torture, same techniques are used in brainwashing, and they're very effective at pulling people in and grabbing hold of them. So when we talk about getting victimized, we have of the utmost respect for our victims because they're innocent. They're really pawns to these people that are so skilled to make these things happen, not only in our own stories, but in the episodes that we're going to talk about.
Isn't it also too there's a little bit of it's to me like a combination of like hope. Like, of course, who doesn't want to have $250,000? Like, oh, I want to, of course, I'm hopeful. There's also a bit of like desperation too. Like, you're longing for this. There's that sadness and then there's the hope, because I really think that that's why like cults and like really resonate with me, because
Me too.
because we've talked about this before, but like, how does one get into it? But honestly, I see it. I see how people
it's easy
can get into it.
We have all opened up a spam email that attracted us and was totally spam. I know I have.
I have too.
I feel guilty
My mom
about
fucked
it.
up
I
too.
feel guilty about it.
So do I.
These techniques.
You want to believe. You want to believe.
And they're powerful. They work.
Yeah.
They're based on, again, things that we as humans will fall for. So we can't blame anybody for getting involved in them. But one of the purposes of our whole podcast series is to say, people, think.
Yes. Think and
these
analyze
can happen
and
to
look
you.
things up. Look things up. A lot of these people that are in these companies say they're entrepreneurs and it's their own business. That is not true. They have they're 1099 employees and they are not the owner of the business. They can be terminated at a moment's notice. Modere, a multi-level marketing company, just literally within hours shut their entire system down and didn't warn anybody. So it's not like a real job. They're really anti 9 to 5. They talk about how bad everything else is in order to make themselves look good. You don't own your own business, people. It's not your own business. You're not an entrepreneur. What we're doing is entrepreneurial, not going and being a consultant for a lotion company or a health and wellness company or a vitamin company or a bullshit, whatever, juices or ketones or all this bullshit. That's all bullshit.
Yeah,
And so I wanted to tell you that you don't own your own business. I've learned a lot from Julie, Joe, all the people I follow, Laura, gosh, I can't think of their names right now, but I listened to about 10 people and they're all trying to help people heal their way out of these situations.
As we are.
Get out of them.
So listen to us because we'll have these tips and techniques as we go through each episode on a wide variety of things, not only, cults, killers, crime, but these multi-level marketing scams that go up. So thank you, Stacey, for saying that. Absolutely.
And let me say one more thing about recruitment into multi-level marketing or cults. There is a beginning stage, which includes love bombing and trauma dumping. Yeah. And when you share your trauma, people automatically feel very connected to you and then they trust you. And all this manipulation happens. And that's why people fall into it. And then it includes, in some cases, most cases, religious manipulation on top of it, that this is Jesus's thought. This is Jesus's company. Jesus is guiding them. And I'm not sure how Jews even get involved in this because every single podcast I listen to, they drop Jesus. And Jesus, guess what? I've told you this before. He would not approve of this way of making money. And I know this from the things I know about Jesus. And I think it is absolutely.
Because I've spoken to Jesus.
Because I have personally spoken to Jesus.
Because I have a direct line to the Jesus.
When you know the real.
People can't see, I have a tinfoil hat on right now.
Yeah. But truthfully, I mean, it is that thing. It's like all of a sudden it's a religious thing. So, oh, now this is part of religion. And so, in our, if you believe in Jesus, if you pray, if you do these things, and remember my daughter passed away and then my dog died. And then I needed something and then I got this and then I retired my husband and now everything's great. And I'm making $250,000 a month. And these people are hearing this and they're seeing dollar signs. Their eyes are going, boing, 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 boing. Over the years, I've also been recruited into other, I'm not going to name the multi-level marketing companies right now, but I've been recruited brought to dinner and talked about, you're such a great saleswoman. You have such great energy. You're so good at that. You're so good at selling. I'm like, well, if I'm so good at it, I'm doing what I'm doing. I didn't ask for another job. I didn't ask for a side hustle. And so they tell you in these lives that they have on Facebook and Instagram on these things I follow, you need to push, you need to motivate, you need to do this in the pockets of your day. It doesn't take a lot of time. You can do it from your phone. And you can have financial freedom and freedom to be with your children. That's a big manipulator. A big manipulator is time freedom, time with your children, and you can retire your husband. Yeah. There's no such thing as retiring somebody. You can't retire another person, but they use that all the time. And this is the scam. It's a scam. Yeah, it's a grift.
From a psychological point of view and also studying people, I don't know if other cultures have this as strong as we do, but that's one of the American dreams, that I don't have to do much effort. I don't have to put much into it, and money will rain down on me for just, being a part of this, etc. So
yes, it's something for nothing, but it's more than anything.
Yeah. If it's too good to be true,
it's not good or true.
Don't they also make you invest?
Yes. So
the products up front. Mm-hmm. So even that 1%, what's the percentage of people that lose money because you have to buy all the stuff up front?
It's actually devastating for people. They have to work their way out of it. They have to unlearn, they have to because there's this guilt that's put on them. Now, listen, I've listened to thousands of podcasts about all different multi-level marketing companies, from Amway to I don't even know, everything, Herbalife, Arbonne, Juice Plus,
Lula Roche,
Sensi, Lula Roche. So every single one is the same. They all say we're not a pyramid scheme. We're not a multi-level marketing. If you are recruiting people as part of if the product is secondary and the recruitment is first, then that means, like, there are some companies that have just opened, Make Wellness and another one called Nueva. They don't even have a product yet. They're just recruiting. So some of these companies, affiliate marketing and network marketing are two different things. Network marketing is when you have recruitment and a product. Affiliate marketing is when you have a product, like Sarah V calls me up and they email me and they say, hey, we want you to be our affiliate for CeraVe. If you promote it on your site, every time it sells, if they use this link, you'll make money. That's totally kosher, but not multi-level marketing where you're recruited and you're invited for this opportunity. And no means yes. No doesn't mean no. What does that mean in our society? First of all, yes, and for improv. We know that, Dori, from our classes. But when somebody says no, and you don't listen or hear that, and you take that as, oh, you're just not ready, then you're fucked up. Something's wrong with you. So that's happened to me a few times. And I want to tell you one more story, and then you can ask me
Can I interject, though, something about that?
Yes.
I was just sitting here thinking after telling my story, which I don't tell to anybody. Now it's out there for the whole world.
Now everybody knows. Everybody who's listening.
But I was sitting here thinking that maybe a silver lining to this whole thing is, for all those decades that I was recovering from this financially, I never had the money to invest in an MLM.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. You asked me about investment. Yes, you have to invest in the products. Either you have to carry the products so you can show them on lives, or you have to order a starter kit, or you have to order the book, or you have to order the book, it's all bullshit. And they're all so, like, diluted, because, like, a company that's specializes in skincare now also specializes in health, and they're not nutritionists. I'm not going to take advice from somebody who's a mom who says anybody can do this. Any job where you say anybody can do this, but yet anybody can't, the whole thing is hypocrisy. It's just hypocrisy at its finest. The third thing I want to tell you about is about my mother. And when my mom was working for a junior high on the North Shore of Chicago, she was directing productions there and casting kids in shows. And we don't know who her stalker. She was being stalked for 10 years. Stalked, but through the mail. And also on the phone, somebody called her and said, "Mrs. Flaster, your husband has AIDS." Or, we're going to blah, blah, blah. I don't think there was ever any murder threats. We did have a case, an open case, but the mail that was sent from all these bullshit, like companies, Reader's Digest, who knows? And they all said my mom's name, but written differently, like written in or the diminutive form or in a dirty words or all this really gross stuff. And the person was a female, we believe. She would call my mom and make threats. And we don't know who it is, but we're convinced that it's somebody whose kid didn't get the lead.
Wow.
Story of my life. But okay. Big time stalker. It was scary. We don't think she ever showed up, but we don't know. And now it's been, 30 years. So we think things are, or 20, maybe 25 years. So we think things are cooled off, but that went on for quite a long time. And it was really violating and scary and sort of unhinged.
That's like those cheerleader moms.
Yeah.
They go and murder. They go and try to kill when their kid doesn't get the cheerleader on the squad.
There is this anger that comes out when your child doesn't make it.
Oh yeah.
When my kid didn't make the baseball team, I was very upset. I don't think I was really that angry, but it hurts.
Oh, it does.
And you don't know what to do with that. You don't know what to do with that hurt.
Right.
Can I say one more side note? My dad recently told me, and I know I've told you both this before, one of the nurses that he worked with at the hospital had a birthday party in the 70s, and they hired a clown. Guess who it was?
Gacy.
John Wayne Gacy. Yep.
So my story has some nuances of both of yours, and I'm not going to, honestly, my story could take hours to tell, but I'm going to consolidate. My former college roommate, this was, I would say, recent, within the last 12 years, I think, 12, 15, 10 years, something like that. We reconnected through, social media, and we started hanging out. She's a ton of fun and great, she was a fun actress. We both shared a lot of commonality, same personality. And I was freelancing at the time, like I am now, but I was struggling back then. I'm a freelance recruiter, struggling more back then. And she mentioned that she has this company, and it's I'm going to say the name of it, and I don't know if you can Google it anymore, but it was called the Profits Group. And essentially, there's a bunch of people that do services for one another, and you can write off your taxes because of this. So you essentially use your credit cards to give money back and forth to the other members. Now, Stacey and Dr. John are like, what the F? But you both have been John, yours was truly taken advantage of and identity theft. Stacey, you were more on my level of, oh, maybe I should. And at the time, I'm like, listen, I trust this person. We lived together. She was my college roommate. How would she ever fuck me over? At the beginning, I just thought this is going to be great. She told me she works with tax attorneys and CPAs, and who am I to question that? I was like, great. But like I had mentioned to Stacey, initially you for these MLMs, you purchase products up front. You invest up front. This was the same thing. And she explained it to me right from the get-go. She charges, I don't know how much, maybe $10,000 to $15,000 on your credit cards. So that is what you are in the hole for at just the very beginning. And for almost a year, I've always been one to pay off my credit cards. I was getting the money back to pay off the credit cards. And then after that year, or after 11 months, the money stopped coming regularly, where I had to beg and scream, "What is going on? This is a scam." Now, during this time, if you Google her, she did have lawsuits against her in another state. But I was like, oh, well, let me ask her about it. And she had perfect answers for it. Again, making me feel bad for even questioning
Very
her.
classic manipulation.
That is classic, right? So, mind you, after the first year, I'm like, I need to get out of this. However, at that time, I was down like almost $40,000 on credit card. Yes, on credit card charges.
And everybody remember the day, this is not contemporary money. And the other thing, speaking of that, I wanted to mention is that we all are a little more savvy now about credit card scams and things like that. But in that day, I'm sure, Dori, and you'll agree that, we didn't hear about people using and abusing credit cards from each other or hacking into them, etc. I don't think, correct?
Well, she told me this is essentially with tax, because then there were taxes involved as well. So she had told me that this is a loophole that the government not allows, but it's a loophole that they don't go after. So because she's working with these CPAs and tax attorneys, this is totally above level. So my taxes were impacted by this as well, because I was paying all this money on credit cards to pay them off every month because I didn't want to go into credit card debt. So again, there are a lot of different nuances about this. One was after about a year and a half or so where I was furious about everything. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay all this off. And I don't know how it happened, but I said to her, if I pay this all off, will we be able to get on track moving forward? Me again thinking she was on the up and up, and it just got bad that way. So I did. I don't think it was that much. I think I paid maybe $18,000 or something. I mean, a lot of money that I did not have, but I paid that, but still was in it for, I think, almost 3 years. But during that time, towards the last 2 years, I was fighting with her. John, I hated this person so much. Long story short, COVID happened. So what? This wasn't that long ago. This was so the start of COVID happened. She was nowhere to be found. She never followed up anymore. There was also an issue with the we would send money back and forth with these other people that I have never met in my life. And so she had all these people in this group. And then the processing way that we used to transfer money, that ended. It was through a bank, and they were like, no go, because they probably were like, this is a scam. What are you all doing?
They're probably under, some kind of, legal scrutiny themselves.
Yeah. So then COVID hit. She rarely even speaks to me at that point. But then other quote unquote members from this group reached out to me. I was reached out by this woman, and we all got together. And this is kind of a knock on our legal system. So we all got together, but none of us had any money. There was one woman who was going through cancer treatments. She was out $180,000.
Wow.
I was the only one of this group that had paid up, that had kept up with my credit card payments. So I was not in credit card debt. However, I used any savings that I had to pay all of this off. So we all had no money, but we got an attorney who said, we won't be able to go to court for you because it would cost you all too much money, but we'll put it together for you for the attorney general and or the district attorney or the state's attorney's office, because it happened not only in Illinois, but it also happened in New York. There were people from New York, there were people from California. And long story short, to this day, nothing has happened to her. She is walking around free. I had asked you, John, do you keep tabs? I had to let go, let God as well. As soon as I did that and said, because I was furious.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. That's all your money. And you're like an artist. You're an actor.
Yeah.
And
I had no money. I was crying all the time.
Horrible.
To this day, I've told my sister, but I've never told my parents about it because I'm too embarrassed about it. However,
it's embarrassing, isn't it?
However, I came out on the other end of it. But even within a month ago, one of the guys from the group contacted me because he had to go to court multiple times because these credit card companies were going after to get their money. And we had a letter from the attorney's office and from the state's attorneys, like it's being investigated. But this was now years ago.
Yeah.
So the credit card companies do not care
that
you're out of all that money. Yeah, go ahead, Dr.
I want to make a couple of comments, especially I think is valuable for our audience to hear. That should fall under what they call a RICO case. Anytime you have fraud that crosses state line, you'll hear it on television shows. Oh, it's a RICO case. That's what a RICO case is about. Second of all, is this whole idea of lawsuit. You see it all over the media. Well, I'm going to sue. What you will find, everyone, is that it's not so simple as that. It costs money. That's one thing. To file any kind of a suit costs money. Attorneys want retainers, and it's often quite large. So it's not as easy as just throwing all popcorn around and, I'm going to sue this, I'm going to do that. So your ability to take action is really limited. And then finally about that is that I heard in my case, for example, well, okay, now let's go after him to recoup some of the money. And the attorney that I had, and I got a couple of second opinions on this, said, yeah, but what are we going to get? He doesn't have anything. You can sue all you want, and you can spend tens of thousands of dollars on a lawsuit and years in court. And at the end of the day, he's almost Teflon because he has no money or no assets in his own name. So I want to make a point to everyone that's listening is that be careful about, threatening or thinking about, my solution is a lawsuit. Because as Dori said, it's a little bit of an indictment against our legal system. It's often a dead end.
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely right. And I never was under the guise that we would ever see another dollar from her. My thinking was lock her up, like throw her away. And no, she's walking free. And I don't want the moral of the story to be like, yeah, go scam people. You're going to totally get off scot-free. But I did a lot of the research. I did like how you said, Dr. John, that you got like a private investigator. I was kind of the investigator of the group. I spoke with her ex-boyfriend. I spoke with other people from years prior that she had done the exact same thing to. They all went bankrupt. Like there were a lot of bankruptcies that this happened with. And I just mentioned this because she is walking scot-free and we all have so much anger against her, but I did let it go. I'm not going after her, but I'm not going to lie. Every once in a while, I do Google her name just to see what's going on, because I have that fascination of finding out. And I'm also not going to lie, I do wish her, ill will, because she is continuing to screw people over. Again, not only just financially, but also tax wise too.
Yeah.
Like she's just a huge scam artist.
Can I say one other thing that I was
Absolutely.
that I wanted to follow up with multi-level marketing is Dori's story is very
amazing.
similar to there's a grift, and I can't remember the name of it. It's about selling a course to somebody who sells the course to somebody who sells the course to somebody. The course is about how to sell a course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing ever.
I want to pop in with a couple of hopefully amusing quips. I wanted to say to you, Dori, thank God you're still following up, because, that's the same audience that's brought to our podcast, people that are absolutely fascinated by the craziness and ill will of these stories that we're going to present, and so you could certainly understand you wondering what's going on. The other thing, and Jeremy might take this out, but I just wanted to say, what would be a Pod Candy podcast without an appearance by the penis dog?
Do not delete that. First of all, this dog is so cute and he's just so in love with you. What is his name again? Or is it just
He's up for adoption through mcp.org.
What's his name?
Bosch. His name is Bosch. He's under 30 pounds and his penis doesn't work, people. His penis does not retract. He's had multiple surgeries, but he keeps jumping up on top of me.
That's why we call him the penis
adorable.
dog.
He's adorable, and I hope he gets adopted because all dogs deserve a good life.
Even dogs with bad penises, yeah. I'm glad that we all divulged our stories, because I think that I know myself, I am always embarrassed by things or thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. But hearing other people who are decent people, hearing their stories, it always helps me. So I'm hoping that it'll help other people as well know that it can happen to anybody. You're not stupid. You shouldn't be embarrassed.
Right.
And if you question it, you're not a hater. You're just questioning.
I was just going to say, but also too, if it's too good to be true, it's usually too good to be true. And that I think is what we can all get out of this as well. Too.
And this is our story. One of the reasons we thought of doing this particular episode is to let everyone know who we are. We're not talking from the mount on our episodes. We're people just like you are that have been involved in these things. I do have one question. Do you think, for both of you, that this is one of the reasons why you wanted to do this podcast so much, is because of these personal incidents that you had?
I know when Stacey asked me about this, I instantly thought of this.
Okay.
I instantly thought of
I sensed it, and I didn't know anything.
I instantly thought of my experience, and also what is happening to our country right now, the grift that is, going on in our country, my own personal experience. So yes, that is absolutely.
Stacey, how about you?
John, that's a great question.
Yeah, it is a good question, and I'll answer it like this. I don't think it was because of my experience. I think it's because I feel like an advocate for these kinds of people who are manipulated and controlled and gaslit. There's something that I relate to. It's almost like a feeling of a past life, but not really. So I just feel very compelled to talk about this shit. I don't like scamming. I don't like people who scam. And I think that's where this came from. And I just love hearing about it and talking about it.
Yeah.
Don't ask me what the psychology is behind that, but we can ask Dr. John. But there's something about it that just makes me excited.
And look at two very different stories of what brings you to be hosts on this podcast. So it's really cool. This is a great time. We're going to move on, and everyone, we're going to have more and more episodes to come. We really are passionate about what we're doing. We're not going anyplace, so keep listening. And spread the word to your relatives and friends to listen as well. Our original theme music is written and performed by Midnight Current. You can hear more of their great music on their SoundCloud account. There's also a link to their SoundCloud account on our website, podcandypodcast.com. And don't forget to visit our website to learn more about us and listen to all of our episodes. You can also listen to all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And speaking of episodes, wait till you hear our next podcast episode. It's captivating. It's a doozy. See you then.
Pod Candy!